It's hopefully the last session today. I hope you all had a good reInvent first day. Myself, I'm Sriram. I'm the co-founder and CTO of Rocks. Rocks, we build revenue agents for the Global 2000. As you all know, we are in the midst of a huge fundamental platform shift that's happening, where after the cloud, this is the complete transformation that is happening in the enterprise technology. As coding agents 10x the productivity, we believe revenue agents will 10x productivity for the enterprise revenue-facing teams. Over the next few minutes, I'll walk you through how we got here, how did the existing revenue stack break, and how AI native architectures are emerging, and how Rocks' AI agents are helping enterprises move from pilot to large-scale production. All right. So let's get started. About ourselves, our mission is simple, but it's ambitious. We want to secure and grow the world's revenue. We've assembled a world-class team. Me, myself, I'm from AWS, and we have people from Google, Stanford, and Berkeley, and so on and so forth. I was in AWS for 7 years, built Amazon Aurora with a few people in the audience here. And we launched Amazon Aurora here in 2014. That was the first reInvent I was here for. After that, now at Rocks, we've launched out of stealth in last year, November 2024. After that, we have worked with over 5,000 plus organizations across different verticals, like financial services, energy, healthcare, semiconductors, and sovereign AI stacks. We are also backed by Sequoia, GC, and GV. Our mission is to redefine the revenue systems from the ground up. Now, let's have a little bit of history of what has happened on the revenue systems. In the on-prem era, Siebel was the single monolithic CRM. It was very powerful, but it was very rigid, expensive, and incredibly hard to operate. Then, with the advent of the cloud, AWS, Salesforce became the system of record, the CRM, Salesforce and HubSpot. But what happened was the system of record and the system of action actually split. The system of action became tools like Clari, Gainsight, and Outreach, and so on and so forth. Now with the advent of Cloud 2.0, which is with the advent of data warehouses like Snowflake, Databricks, Redshift, and so on and so forth, the data moved from the CRM into the warehouse. And why did people move it? It's because they wanted to integrate it with their product usage data and construct dashboards on top. The workflows were still fragmented across all these point tools out there. Now we believe that there is a new bundling cycle that's happening where the system of record and the system of engagement are coming together in the AI native era. Now, this historical shift sets up the real issue. Revenue work is fragmented, manual, and incredibly inefficient right now. So which brings us to why these teams are so ripe for AI augmentation. Now, as I explained before, the three main reasons. One is that data is fragmented across multiple different point tools. You have CRM, you have support, you have product usage. On the structured data side, you have your call recordings, your emails, your transcripts, and your documents, which could be in S3 or SharePoint or wherever on the unstructured data side. Now, this data is completely fragmented across multiple different systems. Your workflows are still extremely manual and inconsistent. Reps have to take a long time doing manual research on accounts. They have to write and rewrite their emails on what they have to send to their customers because they have to pull context from multiple different systems. And you have to chase different teams to get that information today. All in all, what happens is, as you see in the chart here, this is from a BCG study, only 20% of the time is actually spent selling, and the remaining 80% is just manual drudgery and administrative work, which is completely ripe for AI augmentation. So this is why we believe a net new architecture matters, and we are the precipice of this transformation. In the next few slides, we'll explain how Rocks is actually taking advantage of this. As I explained before, we built a fundamentally different AI architecture that is designed to unify this context and action across the entire revenue lifecycle. Rocks is the first AI native revenue operating system that is built for this transformation and is across 4 different layers. We built everything from the ground up instead of doing anything bolt-on and having a separate tool for you. First, number one, you have the data layer where you have all the structured and unstructured data that is accumulated across your CRM, support, product usage. You have your documents and all that information. On top of the data layer, which could reside on your side or it could reside on Rox's side, we have built a context or a knowledge graph or a data fabric layer. Imagine this is like metadata that is actually having pointers to your data and where your data lives. Now this metadata contains of entities and relationships. It actually extracts entities from unstructured information like documents and so on and so forth and integrates it with the structured data out there. So what we have is a metadata that contains knowledge graph, and the agents that sit on top of this is grounded on the context that this layer provides. So agents don't hallucinate, they are actually grounded in the data, which is grounded in the metadata, which is actually having pointers to the data. On top of this, we have the agent swarm. These are turnkey enterprise agents. These are not DIY agents or agent builders. And these agents run the entire revenue lifecycle from lead to close to renewals to expansions, churn prevention, and so on and so forth. Now, this is all delivered to you across multiple different channels, like it could be iOS, Slack, web, and so on and so forth, where we want to meet the sellers where they live. So now, this is a ground-up build all the way from the data layer to agents to end product. This architecture is what allows us to deliver consistent experience, scalable execution across your entire revenue organization. We'll talk about how we actually operationalize this. We call it the agent swarm. So if you have a rep in your company, each representative has a bunch of accounts. For each of their accounts, they have AI agents that are orchestrated by Rox. So imagine for every account out there, there is a bunch of AI agents that are responsible for driving the entire revenue lifecycle. They orchestrate amongst themselves so that they can augment you. Imagine they're sitting in every conversation, they're augmenting and understanding what's going on with respect to that customer for every account, for every rep in every organization out there. That's what happens at scale. So now we can convert the insights into action. For example, let's give an example. So let's say you're trying to break into an account, and let's say they raise a new funding round, by the way. So that is research that is happening on the public data side. And then on top of that insight, you have to draft an email. Now the agents need to know that there is the context of you been trying to break into the account, and they're going to draft an outreach ready for you so that you as a human in the loop is going to come in and actually send that email. So you can also completely automate this out so that the research to action or the insights to action is completely automated out of your way. Imagine doing this for deals that you're running right now and you're trying to figure out risks in the deal. And there are new risks that are surfacing because there are information that is happening on the public internet, there are emails that are happening, and then there are transcripts. So figuring this information out and then surfacing what is the action that you need to take is what these agents orchestrate along, which was not possible before. That's what this architecture enables. Now, let's get a little bit one step deeper into the platform architecture. We build completely on AWS, and we have a clean separation between the customer's data plane and then Rox's data plane. Customers can either share their data with us using secure data share. This is standard in every data warehouses like Redshift, Snowflake, BigQuery, and so on and so forth. Or they can actually pump the data into our warehouse. We build fully using all the AWS services out there, from intelligence to compute to content ingestion to orchestration, so on and so forth. Now, of course, being in AWS gives us the reliability, the global footprint, and the security posture for all the global 2000 deployments that we are after. On top of this is a secret sauce, which is the multi-agent orchestration. We do not run a single general purpose agent that is trying to do everything. That just does not work. For each workflow out there, you have an orchestrator agent that is going to take the workflow, is going to break it into a sequence of steps that needs to happen, and for each of those steps is going to choose the right agent that is responsible for those steps. And this breakage of it, this actual split of the responsibilities is what gives us the quality out the door. Now, all of these agents share a common working memory and they pull from the unified knowledge graph. The working memory enables agents to understand what went on before and what's going to happen later on. But then pulling from the knowledge graph helps it ground in the context and factual information instead of actually like hallucinating something out there. So the result is a predictable, consistent, repeatable execution across all your accounts in your enterprise that you can scale not just one rep but across all the representatives in the organization. Now, let's take a simple example. This is a huge query that a seller can have, and this contains information across earnings calls, press releases, job postings, product signals, leadership commentary, and so on and so forth. How does this work in practice? The orchestrator agent gets this request. It's just going to break it down into a bunch of research which comes in from private research, which is your product signals, public research which comes in from the internet. When the query comes in, it first goes to the guardrail agent. The guardrail is going to look at and see, hey, is this user even allowed? Does he have permissions to actually access this product signal? And two, it ensures that it's safe for work and it's like not something that you want the agent to answer. Then the orchestrator breaks it into multiple research agents. Now let's take a public research agent as an example. It's going to call the query expansion agent to actually expand your query to ensure that it is actually like sufficient to get all the information, do a parallel web search, come back, and then synthesize it using a reasoning agent, and finally format it using a formatter agent, and then verify using a verifier agent. Now, anybody who has built AI agents in production knows that this is just the starting point of how you build workflows. You have the invisible asymptote where you have to scale it across multiple different accounts, multiple different agents. You have to ensure model fallbacks and reliability. Models fail all the time at scale. You have to ensure that there's model fallback. When you fall back to a model, you'll fall back to a different provider. So you need to ensure your prompts are working for that different provider and you have your evals and guardrails set up. And of course, you have to optimize this at scale because you have to optimize for cost. You're just not burning tokens left, right, and center. So that is the invisible asymptote, which is very hard to build if you're building internally because you need the necessary talent and understanding of how to build these agents. Now, this is a fun slide here. We are, of course, operating at scale. As I mentioned before, we are already doing 400 billion tokens per month. We are part of the trillion token club from OpenAI, the only 20 organizations out there. So this is rare in enterprise AI. Like, this is not experimentation. This is daily operational dependence from revenue teams for building their entire revenue lifecycle, from research to outreach to meeting prep to opportunity management to renewals and expansions. All right, so we talked about the vision, we talked about the motivation, it all looks great. Now let's talk about the real adoption in the enterprise. So everybody from all the revenue leaders expect Gen AI to become critical for sales, marketing, and services over the next few years. The vision is very clear. Increase revenue per rep, growth without the headcount increase, and of course, modernize my go-to-market. But the reality is that AI is still bolt-on. It is not integrated into the core workflows. The time to value is extremely slow, and there's a behavior change that is needed across your representatives to start using this technology. You guys probably followed the MIT case study where 95% of the Gen AI pilots actually fail in production. They don't give any business value. So let's dig deeper on why existing approaches actually struggle to deliver value. If you look at the landscape today, there are three different options that you have. One is the incumbents. These are legacy CRMs. They are very powerful, but they're very rigid, they're very hard to configure, and they come up with a lot of technical debt. Their AI strategy is to actually have DIY or agent builders on top of their existing platforms. They expect your IT teams or like end engineers or representatives to configure these workflows, which they are not equipped to do so. The next is you have bolt-on. These are worse than before because now you have to buy multiple vendors for the entire revenue life cycle, and there's a huge integration burden for you. We believe just building from the ground up, ROX is positioned to take care for the enterprise AI transformation and we'll be a long-term transformation partner for this. Now, how do we do this? Like, what is different amongst the ones that I mentioned before and what I'm talking about now? So if you look at it, we do not rely on IT teams to build their own agents or prompt tune workflows. That does not work, period. So what we have is we come up with our own forward deployed engineering team that has a blend of ex-McKinsey and BCG consultants and software engineers whose only goal is to deliver measurable impact to you guys quickly. So the process is simple and repeatable. First, we launch with a focused pilot with measurable outcomes. Second, we train your existing teams. We also then train the trainers because they are going to be like people who are early adopters to actually understand and drive these workflows. The third thing is where the magic actually happens. If you look at it, sales is a power law. Like 10% of the people bring 90% of the revenue in any organization out there. So if you are able to copy those workflows across the entire organization, then you make the best better and the average better than where we were before. And this is very specific to every organization. There's no way you can build a general platform and then expect people to just adopt. The next thing is then we have roll out across multiple teams and functions, and then we institutionalize a new revenue motion across the organization. This is how we actually take it from a stalled pilot into a core operating layer across the entire revenue platform. Awesome. So let's talk about how this works in practice in case studies. This is Ramp. Ramp, if you guys know, is the fastest growing SaaS company ever. And even in Ramp, we were able to uncover 15% more six-figure deals and like 90% reduction in meeting prep time and 20% more in meetings booked. By the way, Ramp has like the ultra dialed in go-to-market motion, and Rocks is still able to do this. The key difference for us is consistency. Every rep gets the same research, same prioritization, same execution quality that is driven by the account level agents that I talked about. Now, across multiple customers, we see the same pattern, like faster meeting prep, higher conversion, better targeting, shorter ramp times, and consistent execution at scale. So this is how we believe AI agents are going to fundamentally transform the way revenue teams work. We are still very, very beginning in the transformation of this shift, and we are doing it one organization at a time. As I mentioned at the beginning of the talk, just like coding agents 10x productivity for engineering teams, we believe revenue agents will 10x the productivity of enterprise revenue teams by giving every account an always-on agent that operates with full context. Thank you so much for your time today. Thank you so much for listening till the end. I know this is the last meeting for you guys of the day. I'll be right here. Any questions, I'll be more than happy to answer.